Welcome friends. Now we are presenting a beautiful short story, The Merino Sheep. So let's start the story. People have got the impression that the merino is a gentle, bleating animal that gets its living without trouble to anybody and comes up every year to be shorn with a pleased smile upon its amiable face. It is my purpose here to exhibit the merino sheep its true light. First, let us give him his due. No one can accuse him of being a ferocious animal. No one could ever say that a sheep attacked him without provocation. Although there is an old bus story of a man who was discovered in the act of killing a neighbor's wether. Hello, said the neighbor. What's this? Killing my sheep. What have you got to say for yourself? Yes, said the man, with an air of virtuous indignation. I am killing your sheep. I will kill any man's sheep that bites me. But as a rule, the merino refrains from using his teeth on people. He goes to work in another way. The truth is that he is a dangerous monomaniac and his one idea is to ruin the man who owns him. With this object in view, he will display a talent for getting into trouble and a genius for dying that are almost incredible. If a mob of sheep see a bus fire closing round them, do they run away out of danger? Not at all. They rush round and round in a ring till the fire burns them up. If they are in a riverbed with a howling flood coming down, they will stubbornly refuse to cross 3 inches of water to save themselves. Dogs might bark and men may shriek, but the sheep won't move. They will wait there till the flood comes and drowns them all, and then their corpses go down the river on their backs with their feet in the air. A mob will crawl along a road slowly enough to exasperate a snail, but let a lamb get away in a bit of rough country, and racehorse can't head him back again. If sheep are put into a big paddock with water in 3 corners of it, they will resolute, crowd into the fourth, and die of thirst. When being counted out at a gate, if a scrap of bark be left on the ground in the gateway, they will refuse to step over it until dogs and men have sweated and toiled and sworn and held him up and spoke to him and fairly jammed them at it. At last one will gather courage, rush at the fancied obstacle, spring over it about 6 feet in the air, and dart away. The next does exactly the same, but jumps a bit higher. Then comes a rush of them following one another in wild bounds like antelopes, until one overjumps himself and alights on his head. The frightens those still in the yard, and they stop running out. Then the dogging and shrieking and hustling and tearing have to be gone through all over again. This on a red hot day, mind you, with clouds of bleeding dust about, the yoke of wool irritating your eyes, and perhaps 3 or 4 thousand sheep to put through. The delay throws out the man who is counting, and he forgets whether he left off at 45 or 95. The dogs, meanwhile, have taken the first chance to slip over the fence and hide in the shade somewhere. And then there are loud whistling and oaths and calls for Rover and Blue. At last, a dirty, begrimed man jumps over the fence, unearths Blue, and hauls him back by the ear. Blue sets to work barking and heeling him up again, and pretends that he thoroughly enjoys it. But All the while he is looking out for another chance to clear, and this time he won't be discovered in a hurry. There is a well authenticated story of a shipload of sheep that was lost because an old ram jumped overboard and all the rest followed him. No doubt they did, and were proud to do it. A sheep won't go through an open gate on his own responsibility, but he would gladly and proudly follow the leader through the red hot portals of heads, and it makes no difference whether the lead goes voluntarily or is hauled struggling and kicking and fighting every inch of the way. For sure, sudden stupidity, there is no animal like the merino. A lamb will follow a bullock drawn by 16 bullocks and driven by a profane person with a whip, under the impression that the aggregate monstrosity is his mother. A Eve never knows her own lamb by sight and apparently has no sense of color. She can recognize its voice half a mile off among 1,000 other voices, apparently exactly similar. But when she gets within 5 yards of it, she starts to smell all the other lambs within reach, including the black ones, though her own may be white. The fleetest resemblance which one sheep bears to another is a great advantage to them in their struggles with their owners. It makes it more difficult to draft them out of a strange flock and much harder to tell when any are missing. Concerning this resemblance between sheep, there is a story told of a fat old Murrumbidgee squatter who gave a big price for a famous ram called Sir Oliver. He took a friend out one day to inspect Sir Oliver and overhauled that animal with a most impressive air of sheep wisdom. Look here, he said, at the fineness of the wool. See the serration in each thread of it. See the density of it. Look at the way his legs and belly are clothed. He is wool all over that sheep. Grand animals, grand animals. Then they went and had a drink, and the old squatter said, now I will show you the difference between a champion ram and a second rater. So he caught a ram and pointed out his defects. See here, not half the serration that other sheep had, no density of fleece to speak of, bare believed as a pig. Compare with Sir Oliver. Not that this is not a fair sheep, but he would be dear at 1/10 Sir Oliver's price. By the way, Johnson, to his overseer, what ram is this? That is, replied the astounded functionary. That is Sir Oliver, sir. There is another kind of sheep in Australia, as great a curse in his own way as the merino, namely the crossbred or half merino, half Leicester animal. The crossbred will get through under or over any fence you like to put in front of him. He is never satisfied with his owner's run, but always thinks other people's runs must be better, so he sets off to explore. He will strike a course, say southeast, and so long as the fit takes him, he will keep going southeast through all obstacles, rivers, fence, growing crops, anything. The merino relies on passive resistance for his success. The crossbred carries the war into the enemy's camp and becomes a living curse to his owner day and night. Once there was a man who was induced in a weak moment to buy 20 crossbred rams. From that hour, the hand of fate was upon him. They got into all the paddocks they should not have been in. They scattered themselves over the run promiscuously. They visited the cultivation paddock and the vegetables garden, at their own feet sweet will, and then they took to rowing. In a body, they visited the neighboring station and played havoc with the sheep all over the district. The Red Over was constantly getting fired letters from his neighbors. Your blanks ramp are here. Come and take them away at once. He would have to go 9 or 10 miles to drive them home. Any man who has tried to drive a ram on a hot day knows what purgatory is. He was threatened every week with action for trespass. He tried setting them up in the sheep yard. They got out and went back to the garden. Then he galled them in the calf pen, out again and into a growing crop. Then he set a boy to watch them, but the boy went to sleep and they were 4 miles away cross country before he got on to their track. At length, when they happened accidentally to be at home on their owner's run, there came a big flood. His sheep, mostly merinos, had plenty of time to get on to high ground and save their lives, but of course they didn't and were almost all drowned. The owner sat on a rise above the waste of waters and watched the dead animals go by. He was a ruined man, but he said, "Thank God, those cross-bred rams are drowned anyhow." Just as he spoke, there was a splashing in the water, and the 20 rams solemnly swam ashore and dragged themselves in front of him. They were the only survivor of his 20,000 sheep. He broke down and was taken to an asylum for insane paupers. The crossbreds had fulfilled their destiny. The crossbred drives his owner out of his mind, but the merino ruins his man with greater clarity. Nothing on earth will kill crossbred. Nothing will keep merinos alive. If they are put on dry salt bus country, they die of drought. If they are put on damp, well-watered country, they die of worms, fluke and foot rot. They die in the wet season and they die in the dry ones. The hard, resentful look on the faces of all bushmen comes from a long course of dealing with merino sheep. The merino dominates the bus and gives to Australian literature its melancholy tang, its despairing pathos. The poems about dying boundaries rights and lonely graves under mournful sea oak are the direct outcome of the poet's too close association with that soul destroying animal. A man who could write anything cheerful after a day in the drafting yard would be a freak of nature. That's it. Thank you.